Most people hear $75,000 a year and think it is just a salary number. It sounds like a line on a job posting, a tax bracket, a goal you write down when you are tired of being underpaid. But something strange happens when your income reaches that range. It does not mean you are rich. It does not mean your problems disappear. It does not mean you suddenly stop checking prices at the grocery store or stop feeling nervous when rent, insurance, utilities, and subscriptions all hit your account at the same time. But it does mean the game quietly starts changing. And the reason I want to talk about this today is because $75,000 is not really about luxury. It is about breathing room. It is about the moment when money stops being only survival and starts becoming a tool. And that shift, if you understand it, can change the next 10 years of your life. My name is Andres, and I want you to imagine two people for a second. They live in the same city, they drive similar cars, they shop at the same stores, and from the outside, their lives do not look that different. One makes $45,000 a year. The other makes $75,000 a year. The difference sounds like $30,000, but after taxes, it does not feel like $30,000 in cash sitting on the table. It feels smaller. It gets eaten by payroll taxes, health insurance, rent increases, groceries, gas, student loans, family obligations, and all the little things that never show up in motivational videos. So at first, the person making $45,000 and the person making $75,000 may both feel like they are still working hard and still not where they want to be. But underneath the surface, something very different is happening. At $45,000, one broken tire can become a credit card balance. One emergency dentist bill can become 3 months of stress. One unexpected trip to help family can destroy the budget. You are not just paying for life. You are paying for the lack of margin. You pay late fees. You pay interest. You pay overdrafts. You pay in anxiety. You pay by delaying decisions that would actually help you. You cannot always buy the cheaper option in bulk. You cannot always take advantage of a discount because the discount requires money up front. You cannot always leave the bad job because leaving requires savings. That is the hidden tax of being financially squeezed. It is not just that you have less money. It is that every decision has fewer exits. But when your income starts approaching $75,000 a year, the first thing that changes is not your lifestyle. It is your ability to absorb. The emergency that used to break you now annoys you. The car repair that used to become a crisis now becomes a bad weekend. The medical bill that used to turn into a payment plan now becomes something you can handle without rewriting your entire month. And that is when life begins to feel different, not because you are rich, but because you are no longer one surprise away from financial chaos. This is the part most people miss. They think the goal is to earn more so they can buy more. But the real first benefit of earning more is that you can stop believing money from being fragile. A person making $75,000 who keeps living like they make $55,000 can build something powerful. But a person making $75,000 who immediately upgrades everything may feel just as trapped as before, only with nicer furniture and a bigger car payment. That is why this number is dangerous and powerful at the same time. It can become the beginning of financial freedom, or it can become the level where lifestyle inflation disguises itself as success. Because the moment income rises, life starts whispering. You deserve a better apartment. You deserve a newer car. You deserve the nicer gym, the better phone, the bigger vacations, the premium version of the dinner where you do not check the menu first. And honestly, some of that may be true. You work hard. You should enjoy your life. I am not here to tell you to live in a dark room eating rice forever. But I am telling you that after $75,000 a year, the choices become more important because the gap between survival and freedom finally exists. Before that, many people are not failing because they lack discipline. They are failing because the math is brutal. There is only so much discipline can do when rent takes half your income. Groceries keep rising. Insurance is expensive. And every emergency comes with interest. But once there is a gap, even a small one, your behavior starts to matter more. The first change is cash flow. The second change is optionality. And optionality is one of the most underrated forms of wealth. When you have no margin, you have to accept whatever life hands you. You stay in the job with a disrespectful manager because you cannot miss a paycheck. You keep the unreliable car because you cannot afford to replace it, even though the repairs are slowly robbing you. You pay the minimum on credit cards because that is all you can do. You say yes to overtime you do not want, no to opportunities you cannot risk, and maybe later to dreams that needed action now. But with a stronger income, if you protect the margin, you start buying options. You can leave a toxic job with a plan instead of a panic attack. You can move for a better opportunity. You can invest in a certification, a business idea, a better computer, a course, a license, or even just time to think clearly. Money is not happiness by itself, but money can remove the constant background noise that makes happiness harder to reach. And that is why everything changes. Not because $75,000 makes life perfect, but because it gives you the chance to stop making decisions from fear. Now, let's be honest about something. In expensive cities, $75,000 can still feel tight. If you live in a high-cost area, have children, support family, carry debt, or pay high rent, that number may not feel magical at all. This is why I do not like when people talk about income numbers as if they mean the same thing for everybody. $75,000 in a low-cost area can feel completely different from $75,000 in Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Seattle, or San Francisco. $75,000 for a single person is different from $75,000 for a household of 4. $75,000 with no debt is different from $75,000 with student loans, credit cards, medical bills, and a car payment. So the point is not that $75,000 is some universal finish line. The point is that around this level, many people finally have enough income for their financial habits to start compounding in either direction. Good habits become powerful. Bad habits become expensive. At $35,000, a bad habit might be eating out too much because life is stressful and you are exhausted. At $75,000, that same habit can quietly become $800 a month, disappearing without building anything. At $40,000, not investing may be understandable because you are just trying to survive. At $75,000, not investing becomes a choice with a future cost. At lower income, you may be forced to use debt. At higher income, you may begin using debt to maintain an image. And that image can become a prison. This is where people get stuck. They cross into a better income level, but they never cross into a better financial system. They still budget like everything is random. They still save whatever is left over, which usually means nothing. They still let the checking account decide their lifestyle. They still treat bonuses, raises, and tax refunds like permission to spend instead of opportunities to build. And then 5 years later, they look around and say, "How am I making more money than ever and still feel broke?" The answer is usually that their expenses rose to meet their income before their assets had a chance to grow. If you make $75,000 a year and you save nothing, invest nothing, and carry high-interest debt, the income is passing through you. It is not staying with you. You are like a busy train station. Money arrives, money leaves, and you are exhausted from all the movement, but nothing is being built. The real goal is to turn income into ownership. Ownership of cash reserves. Ownership of investments. Ownership of skills. Ownership of time. Ownership of choices. That is when 75,000 becomes a turning point. Not when it hits your bank account, but when you stop letting every dollar escape. Let's make this simple. If someone earns $75,000 a year and can consistently save and invest, just 10% of their gross income, that is $7,500 a year. That is $625 a month. For some people watching, that number sounds impossible. For others, it sounds very realistic. But here's what matters. $625 a month invested consistently for years can become life-changing. Not overnight, not in some fake 30-day challenge, but over 10, 15, 20 years. That habit can become the difference between always needing the next paycheck and eventually having real financial pressure relief. And if you can get to 15%, 20% or more, the math starts moving faster. This is why I always say the first version of wealth is not a Lamborghini. The first version of wealth is being able to handle life without borrowing from your future every time something goes wrong. Then the second version of wealth is having money working when you are not working. And the third version is having enough freedom to choose how you spend your time. 75,000 can be the doorway into the first and second version, but only if you do not spend the doorway decorating it. Another thing changes at this level. Your mistakes get more expensive because you finally have something to lose. When you are barely scraping by, the system often profits from your lack of options. When you start earning more, the system profits from your desire to look like you are doing well. Different trap, same result. The bank offers you a bigger car loan. The credit card company gives you a higher limit. The apartment complex shows you the upgraded unit. The phone company says the monthly payment is only a little more. The subscription services stack up because each one feels small. The restaurants become normal. The vacations go on the card because you can pay it off later. And slowly, your raise disappears into a lifestyle you now feel obligated to maintain. This is why a raise without a plan often becomes a raise for everyone except you. Your landlord gets some. Your lender gets some. The car dealership gets some. The restaurants get some. The brands get some. The apps get some. And you get the feeling that you are doing better, but not the balance sheet to prove it. So, if you are at or near $75,000 a year, the question is not, what can I afford? That question is too dangerous. The better question is, what do I want this income to do for me? Do I want it to buy comfort only, or do I want it to buy freedom? Do I want it to impress people for a moment or protect me for years? Do I want it to make my life look richer or actually make my life more stable? Because the truth is, comfort matters. You should have some. But comfort without direction becomes consumption. Direction turns income into power. Here is the framework I would use. First, build the emergency buffer. Not because saving cash is exciting, but because cash breaks the panic cycle. Start with 1 month of basic expenses. Then 3 months. Then aim for 6 if your life is unstable, your job is uncertain, or people depend on you. This money is not there to make you rich. It is there to stop emergencies from becoming debt. Second, kill the debt that charges you for your past, especially high-interest credit cards and personal loans. Debt is not just a balance. It is a claim on your future income. Every payment going to interest is money that cannot become an investment, cannot become a safety net, cannot become freedom. Third, automate investing before lifestyle inflation gets comfortable. This matters because if you wait to invest what is left, your life will find a way to leave nothing. Automation makes wealth the first bill, not the last hope. Fourth, upgrade carefully. There is nothing wrong with improving your life, but make upgrades one at a time and let your savings rig survive. A better apartment may be worth it if it improves your safety, commute, or peace. A newer car may be worth it if your current one is unreliable. But every fixed payment you add becomes a wall around your future choices. Keep your fixed costs low enough that you can breathe. Fifth, invest in earning power. At $75,000, you may be close to the next income jump. Sometimes the best investment is not only the stock market. It is the skill, credential, portfolio, network, business system, or career move that helps you go from 75 to 95 or from 95 to 120. But do this intelligently. Do not buy courses because they promise a fantasy. Invest where there is a clear path, a real skill, and a market willing to pay for it. The beautiful thing about this income level is that you can start playing offense and defense at the same time. Defense is the emergency fund, insurance, debt reduction, and avoiding stupid fixed costs. Offense is investing, increasing income, building assets, and taking calculated risks. Below a certain income, people are often trapped in defense. They are just trying not to fall behind. But after $75,000, you may finally have enough room to defend your present and build your future. That is the shift. But there is also an emotional shift nobody talks about. When you have been broke or stressed for a long time, earning more does not instantly make you feel safe. Sometimes you keep the fear. You keep the scarcity. You keep the habit of checking your account 10 times a day. You keep the guilt when you buy something small. Or you go the opposite direction and spend aggressively because you are tired of feeling deprived. Both reactions make sense. Money is emotional because your nervous system remembers what instability felt like. So when your income rises, you have to update your identity, not just your budget. You have to become someone who can handle money without fear and without proving anything. That means allowing yourself some enjoyment while still building. It means not punishing yourself forever, but also not letting one raise become 5 new bills. It means understanding that financial peace is not built from one dramatic decision. It is built from repeated quiet decisions that nobody applauds. Keeping the older car a little longer. Increasing the retirement contribution after a raise. Cooking at home when you could technically afford delivery. Saying no to a payment that would make you look successful but feel trapped. Buying the thing you truly value and ignoring the thing you only wanted because other people have it. This is where freedom begins to form. Not in the big motivational moments, but in the gap between what you could spend and what you choose to keep. And that gap is everything. The gap is where your emergency fund lives. The gap is where your investments live. The gap is where your future down payment lives. The gap is where your ability to quit, move, rest, negotiate, or take a better opportunity lives. People think wealth is built from income, but wealth is built from the gap between income and expenses, multiplied by time and consistency. A high income with no gap is just expensive survival. A moderate income with a strong gap can become real wealth. So yes, everything changes after $75,000 per year, but not automatically. It changes if you use that income to create margin instead of just creating a more expensive version of the same stress. It changes if you stop measuring success only by what you can buy and start measuring it by what you can keep, grow, and control. It changes when a car repair is no longer a disaster. It changes when you can pay off the credit card in full. It changes when your investments keep buying, even while you sleep. It changes when you are no longer begging for overtime just to survive. It changes when you can look at a job, a relationship, a city, or a financial decision and say, I have options. That is what money is supposed to do. Not turn you into someone else. Not make you flex for strangers. Not trap you in payments you secretly hate. Money is supposed to give you back pieces of your life. And $75,000 a year can be the first income level where that starts to become real. So if you are below that number, Do not hear this as discouragement. Hear it as a reminder that increasing income matters, and you are not lazy for struggling in a system where basic life has become expensive. Focus on skills, opportunities, career moves, and small financial systems that protect you as you climb. And if you are already at that number or above it, do not waste the moment. Do not let lifestyle inflation quietly steal the raise you worked so hard to earn. Give some money to comfort. Yes. Give some to joy. Give some to the present. But make sure a serious piece of it goes to freedom. Because the real magic of $75,000 is not the number. It is the possibility that you can finally stop living only in reaction mode. You can build a buffer. You can reduce debt. You can invest. You can say no. You can plan more than one paycheck ahead. You can become less profitable to the systems that make money from your stress. And you can start turning your income into a life that feels calmer, stronger, and more yours. That is the change. Not rich overnight. Not perfect. Not easy. But different. And if you protect that difference, it can become the beginning of everything.